These are my picks for UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy. In the main event, I'm going with Lerone Murphy. I think this is one of those situations where he's been being given this fight and put in this position to win, to get some new faces and new blood into title contention. And the 40-year-old Josh Emmett is probably on his way out. It is a little scary picking Lerone Murphy because he's gotten dropped in his last two fights. And when you look at Josh Emmett's history, obviously he KO'd Bryce Mitchell and he survived a fight against Ilia Topuria. But yeah, I'm going with Lerone Murphy, probably by decision. If you're going with Josh Emmett, you gotta go by KO. And on DraftKings, that prop is actually pretty decent. It's like plus 350 or 450, but Lerone by decision. Next fight, Joanderson Brito versus Pat Sabatini. I think this is kind of obvious that Joanderson Brito has the knockout power while also having the submission game, while Pat Sabatini, I think, is mainly on for a submission win. So since Joanderson Brito seems to have more ways to win to me, I'm going to pick him in this fight. But I think he's more likely to get a KO. Diego Lopez is kind of a puncher who swings wild, like big wide hooks, and it's kind of like Joanderson Brito. And if Diego Lopez was able to land on him and KO Pat Sabatini, I think Joanderson Brito will as well. Not only that, Damon Jackson KO'd him on the ground and pound. I think Joanderson Brito will be able to do the same. And if he can open up on the ground, he might be able to catch Pat Sabatini in a submission as he's trying to escape or defend from the ground and pound. Next, Cortavius Romeus versus Chang Ho Lee. I'm going with Chang Ho Lee. I'm just not necessarily too impressed by Cortavius, and he lost his last fight. Chang Ho Lee hasn't shown much in the UFC, obviously just one fight. But yeah, I'm going with Chang Ho Lee. I feel like if he went through the Road to UFC series, and I believe he was the winner of that, and this guy Cortavius only went through Contender and then lost his UFC debut while Chang Ho Lee won his, I just got to give the edge to Lee. He'll probably get a bunch of takedowns. Look at all these fights, ground and pound KOs. Yeah, and if you're on Price Picks, you got to look to see how many takedowns this guy's up for and perhaps go for over, as long as it's not a ridiculous number. So I'm going to say KO, ground and pound probably. But I don't know which round. How are you supposed to guess that? So I'll go round 3. Next fight, I believe this fight is scrapped, but I'm not too sure. Jeez, I'm on the spot, but I guess I'll go with Kennedy by KO, first round. I mean, these are heavyweights. I'm not going to dive too deep into this. Gerald Meerschaert versus Brad Tavares. They're both up there in age. Both got a bunch of losses. This guy's win against Chris Weidman, just recently retired, I believe. I want to pick Gerald Meerschaert, even though his striking's a little slow and he's a little too willing to strike. I feel like Brad Tavares could land on him and KO him pretty easily if he's on his game, but he hasn't been doing that in his fights. So I'm just going to go with Meerschaert by submission. Maybe like late submission. And I used to think Gerald Meerschaert was kind of trash, but he keeps surprising me. Next fight, Robert Valentin versus Taurus Finney. Now this one, I don't know too much about Taurus Finney other than he looks like a beast. And I feel like Robert Valentin is one of those people he lost his debut in the UFC, and I also feel like he's one of those overhyped people, kind of guy from last week who lost to Chris Duncan, Jordan Vucenic. I think he just has a lot of hype behind him because of his tattoos, maybe. So I'm going to go with Taurus Finney. I'll just say KO. I don't know why I'm feeling a KO. Louis Gurul versus Ode Osborne. I'm going to keep this simple and go with a guy with a winning streak, even though he's untested in the UFC. But this is going to be a good litmus test for Louis Gurul. So let's just go with him. And I would say by decision. This might be the last time we see Osborne. Next fight, Davey Grant versus Daniel Santos. On this one, this guy's older, and I feel like he's the better fighter. He's fought maybe similar, slightly better competition, But I feel like we'll have a situation like last week where I don't recall his name. I believe it was the very first fight on the card. The more experienced fighter, I felt, won the fight, had the control time, but they gave the win to the new fighter. So I feel like this is one of those kind of situations where he's being put up against Daniel Santos to prop up Daniel Santos, since he has more life in the sport and they want to build his name. So let's go with Daniel Santos, probably by a decision, a robbery maybe. Dion Barbosa versus Diana Belbita. Let's go with Dion Barbosa, and let's go by decision. Yeah, the odds are crazy for this. I mean, she lost to Molly McCann. That's not a good look. She is pretty though, but I don't think she's gonna get pretty privilege in this situation. Unless she can make it close, then she will. So if you think it's gonna be close, you might want to put a little bit of money on her. Rice McKee versus Daniel Frunza. Now, looking at this now, before I was gonna lean towards Rice McKee, but just after tapping these KO results, kind of feeling like the newcomer is gonna get a KO. You don't quote me on that, but so let's just go KO here. Maybe a round one. Victor Henry versus Pedro Falco. I'm gonna go with Pedro Falco. He lost the decision versus the experienced Victor Hugo. So it seems like a similar situation over here. Similar record also, his opponent, Victor Henry. But Victor Henry got submitted by Charles Jourdain. Doesn't look good. Rani Yaya, whatever. Yeah, if he can make it close enough, I think he'll be given the win. So let's go with this dude. And Victor Henry is pretty experienced. So I don't know. He'll probably be able to survive. So I'll go with Falco by decision. I think Victor Henry either needs to dominate the entire fight, make it a clear unanimous decision, or needs to get a finish to win this fight. Vanessa Demopoulos versus Talita Alencar. I'm gonna go with Vanessa Demopoulos. She's a decent fighter. She got the more UFC experience, and she also knows how to play to the audience and the judges. I think the UFC love watching her post-fight antics of her jumping into people's arms. Kind of like a Argentinian lady who twerks after all her fights. It's kind of one of those situations where they like these fighters who kind of like clickbait for the UFC. So I'm gonna go with Demopoulos. I think she's slightly better, and she has that edge and where she plays to the fans and the judges. So let's go decision though. I'll say decision. And I don't fault her for that last fight, because that was messed up. That girl had her fingers in the gloves, and that's up to the judge or the referee to notice that and put a stop to it. And also to the judges to overturn it, or the ref to overturn it after the fact. They did her dirty with that. The last fight, or the first fight actually on the card, Loma Lookboom versus Estela Nunes. I just got to keep it simple and go with Loma Lookboom. And I don't know, perhaps a decision. I don't know. This girl lost by KO, decision, submission. So it seems like she gets finished pretty easily. And maybe not easily, but she's prone to finishes. And this girl, she got a submission, a lot of decisions. I mean, definitely going with her. She's a Thai fighter. I think she can find a KO. If these other girls, this girl found a KO. Yasmin found a KO. I think she could find a KO, or maybe even a submission, but I'll pick KO. Maybe a late one. So those are my picks, and good luck to everybody with your long shot parlays. I got like 10 or 15 already. Probably gonna make 5 more. I'm not one of these dudes who has like $4,000 to put on a 3-leg parlay to win $100,000. My preferred method is to bet like $1, a couple dollars to win thousands of dollars. So I'll parlay the whole card with variations. So anyway, good luck to everybody. Post in the comments any parlays you think that I might want to hop on, if you got any good insight for me. And it's all right if it's not a 12 pick parlay, I guess. I'm still open to suggestions. Good luck.